Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining me for this virtual workshop on the IRS tax filing season. As most of you know, the IRS began accepting and processing 2021 returns in late January, and most taxpayers have a deadline of April 18th to file this year. I know that filing taxes can be stressful and sometimes confusing. Because of the enormous challenges the IRS has faced over the past couple of years during the pandemic, it is especially important this year that everyone file their return accurately and on time. My office has received a number of questions from around the 14th district about filing a return or where in the community they can get assistance. And that's why we are here today, to empower everyone with the information and tools that they need to file timely and accurately. I am so thankful to be joined by a panelist who has a lot of experience in educating and helping taxpayers navigate tax filing season and the Internal Revenue Service. I'd like to welcome Michelle Francis from the Taxpayer Advocate Service. Now, during this workshop, Michelle will provide important information on updates for the tax filing season this year, provide tips and best practices for filing an accurate return, and share valuable resources for anyone that needs additional assistance. Then we'll go over some of the frequently asked questions that I hear from my constituents. Before I turn it over to Michelle, I wanted to share a little bit about constituent services in my office and how we can help when you are having a problem with the Internal Revenue Service or any federal agency. Although it's important to note that our office cannot help you file your tax return, we can help if you have a problem or if you're struggling to receive an answer from the IRS or any other federal agency that hasn't been resolved through proper channels or in a timely fashion. I am also incredibly proud of our constituent services team. Guys, my team has recovered over $15 million in money or benefits that people in the 14th district have been owed, and not just on their tax returns, but things like veterans benefits and Social Security payments. So I have never forgotten that my office is your office and that I am here to work for you. Please reach out to my office at 630-549-2190 or visit us at underwood.house.gov if you are having a problem with a federal agency and want to know if our office can help. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Beeshold, who's the Outreach Director based in my district office. Jessica is going to introduce our speaker and will moderate the rest of the discussion this afternoon. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Michelle Francis, who is the Taxpayer Advocate with the Taxpayer Advocate Service. So the Taxpayer Advocate Service is an independent organization within the IRS that helps and advocates for taxpayers. So Michelle, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Do you want to introduce yourself and your organization? And I'm going to pull up your presentation.
Sure, Jessica. Thank you. Like Jessica said, my name is Michelle Francis. I'm the currently the acting local taxpayer advocate in our Springfield Taxpayer Advocate Service. I am here to provide some tips on the filing season. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me, and let's get started. Okay, we have the pre-filing season tax tips, and the first one that I like to discuss with you is a few things to avoid common errors. They may be simple to you, but believe it or not, every year we get hundreds and thousands of taxpayers making the same common errors every year. Jessica, you can move to the next one. The first one we have is the year-end income tax statement, where you normally have your wages on and you would normally report it on a W-2. A lot of taxpayers go in and they use their year-end income statement. That is fine, but you have to be very, very careful in using your year-end income tax statements, which a lot of you guys call your pay stubs. And that's because sometimes your payers or your employers input the wrong information and it won't match up. So it's better or best that you wait for your Form W-2, and you should receive it no later by January 31st That is the requirement for employers and institutions to have mailed it or electronically sent it to you. And if you do not receive your W-2 information by that date, I would advise you to contact your employer or your institution. Move to the next slide. Within the IRS, we have what you call the IRS Integrity and Verification Operations. What they do is they compare your income and withholding that's reported on your tax returns to your W-2s and other information returns. Why that is important, they ensure that your accurate tax returns are processed and to help identify any fraudulent returns before refunds are issued. So it's very important when you get your W-2, all the information is matching like it should, because if you transmit electronically or even if you file paper returns, your information has to match or your return will be delayed. So so if the information is not correct, just like I said, make sure that you contact your employer or the institution that issued you the W-2. You can go to the next one. This is very, very important. Make sure that you take the time to file your return or give yourself enough time. You want to double check everything that's on your tax return and it's incorrect for you, your spouse, and your dependents. If I was you as a taxpayer, I would make a checklist of potential items that you need, like your driver's license, all your income and receipts that you need. Have it all handy right there and be ready to prepare your tax return, either if you're filing it yourself electronically or you're having some type of tax preparer do it for you. You need to check name spellings, the taxpayer identification numbers, such as your social security numbers, even your institution or employer information has to be correct on there. Dates of birth, addresses, bank account information, if you're going to have your return electronically direct deposit into your bank accounts, because if you have the wrong direct deposit information, it's going to go to the wrong account. And if you have to contact the IRS to trace it, it takes a long time. I'm telling you, it takes like 4 to 6 weeks, and you don't want that to happen. Also, make sure that you have valid social security numbers for all your dependents. Please do not guess, because if it's wrong, the IRS will reject your electronically filed return. So make sure that all your social security numbers on it. And if you have a newborn, you have to make sure that you apply for a social security number before you input your information for your newborn. If you can't get the information and you're rushed to file your tax return without the dependent, you can file what we call amended tax return to claim that newborn later. But it's best to have all your information up front so you can get all your refund at one time on your original return. You can also apply for an independent tax identification number with the IRS if you can't get the social security number fast enough. But if you're going to have to apply for a social security number or a taxpayer identification with the IRS through a Form W-7 of some sort, it's going to make the process longer for you to get your tax return process. So be mindful of that. You can move on to the next slide, Jessica. Family-related credits. Here are some possible family credits for which you may be eligible. Again, like I said, you need to review the tax form instructions if needed, consult a tax professional to correctly claim all the deductible items and credits which are eligible, and then be aware that the IRS has the interactive tax assistant tools online at their www.irs.gov website. You can go to the next slide, Jessica. Thank you. 2001 third economic impact payment, which is also known as now the recovery rebate credit. If you did not receive the income economic impact payment, you must now claim it as a recovery rebate credit on your Form 1040 or Form 1040 SR tax return for seniors. Now, if you don't have a filing requirement, you're just trying to claim the recovery credit on your 1040, which means you didn't get your economic income payments, you can file the 1040 SR as well. That return is also used mainly for those that do not have a filing requirement. You must file a 2021 return to get the third economic payments and to calculate it on as the 2001 recovery credit on that form. In early 2022, the IRS sent the letter 6475 with the total amount of economic credit payments that you received, and there were like 3 different economic payments that were sent throughout the year. So make sure that the total matches on your tax return, or it's going to cause a delay. You can find out what those payments that you received on the online account at www.irs.gov, or refer to your letter 6475. If you lost it or you don't have it, you can always go to the online account. You can go to the next page, the next slide. Also, going back to the, if you do not get the letter or the online, you can always get a transcript at www.irs.gov, where it lists all your payments as well. I have to warn you, that line is very busy right now because everybody's wanting a transcript. So you have to be very patient about getting your transcript, but that is another option for you if you're going to need a transcript, or you want or prefer a transcript. So you do not have to complete the information on the recovery rebate credit on your Form 1040 if your economic payment totaled the full amount which you applied and you received it. So if you received it, you do not have to put it on there. But if you didn't receive it, that is what that recovery rebate credit on the line is on the current year return. Okay, now advanced child tax credit. That is a new credit that was made in law this year. The credit is for qualifying children fully refunded, and now includes children who turned age 17. In prior years, it used to be the child had to be under 17. Now they raised it to 17 years old, and that's a good thing. So we have more of our taxpayers qualifying for that credit. Like I said, this advanced child tax credit came through the American Rescue Plan Act of 21, increased the amount of the child tax credit, and they made it refundable for 2021 only. You can get up to $3,000 for children that are the ages 6 to 17, owed at the end of 2021. And for children under 5, you get a $3,600 credit for each child. You can move to the next slide. Okay, the advanced child tax credit. You can reconcile your advanced tax credit by comparing the advanced child tax credits received in 2001 with the amount of the child tax credit that can be claimed on the 2021. Taxpayers who receive less than the amount, they're eligible to claim a credit for the remaining amount on the current 2021 tax return. So if you didn't apply or didn't get a advanced child tax credit throughout the year, you can now claim it on your 2021 tax return. Happen if you had gotten advanced child tax credit and you received more than the amount you were eligible, you will have to repay that sum or the excess amount when you file. So you should receive a letter 6412 that provides that total. We talked about that form previously here of the advanced child tax credit that was dispersed to you in 2021. If you lost the letter, there is what we call the child tax credit update portal on your online tax account at the website www.irs.gov. Both of these systems require that you identify yourself. So you have to have your identification available. Another alternative is request, like I said, a tax account transcript, and you have to go to www.irs.gov. Like I said, if you receive more than you were entitled to, you may have to repay it, but they have what they call a repayment protection program. It all depends on your income, whether you have to pay it back or not. And you can check out those limit amounts at the website, www.irs.gov. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Advanced tax credit again. We're talking about still about the tax credit. If the total monthly amount recorded on your form 8812, and the 8812 is the form that you file with your tax return when you're claiming a child tax credit. If the amounts doesn't match to the total that's shown on your letter, it would process your return. So it's very important that you check your 6419 letter or the child tax credit portal on the IRS site to make sure that you have received those amounts. If you didn't receive those amounts and the IRS is showing that they issued to you, you need to contact the IRS about it, because if you go filing that return and it's a mismatch, it's going to delay your refund. And it's going to hold up. It's going to be held up. Okay, go to the next slide. Earned income tax credit. Earned income tax credit, you always check your income limits first, or use the EITC assistant tool on the www.irs.gov website. Like I said, that's the easiest way to determine if you qualify for the earned income credit. You want to make sure, just like your tax return with your dependents and your child tax credit, you want to make sure that the Social Security numbers for yourself, your spouse, and all your qualifying dependents have valid Social Security numbers. The filing status to qualify you for earned income tax credit, which we call EITC, is single, head of household, widow, or married filing joint. Married filing separate filers do not qualify. So you have to be very careful of claiming that married filing separate filing status, and you have to refer to the rules in the public. You can check the publication 17 on it. You must be a United States citizen, a resident alien all through the year. You can't file Form 2555, which is a form used for foreign income, so you can't have foreign income. And you must meet the rules for claiming a qualifying child or claiming a child a credit without a child, so that the child has to live with you for more than 6 months of the year in order for you to claim the earned income tax credit. I also want to let you know there's a new feature this year that they're allowing on our website, on the IRS website, in Spanish as well. So they're starting to offer a lot of Spanish types of tax material and tools, so it make it easier for our Hispanic community to be able to access a lot of information on their own. There is a credit tool now. They started in 2001, a temporary expansion of the 2001. It's called a childless EITC. So, and they also up the age to 18 for a former foster child or qualified homeless child, so they can get the earned income credit. The minimum age to claim the credit has been lowered to 19 if they do not have a qualifying child. The minimum age for a student now has been lowered to 24. The law, now another good thing, the law eliminated the maximum age to claim the credit. Filers no longer have to be under age 25 to claim the credit without a qualifying child in 2021. You can move to the next slide. We're going to summarize a few things with the earned income tax credit. Be ready to show your proof of earned income. Remember, there is an income limitations when claiming the earned income tax credit. You can't have investment income of over $10,000. It has to be less than that. You have to have valid Social Security number for yourself, your spouse, and any dependents you claim. And you, like I said, you have to meet the adjusted gross income for your filing status. Remember, married filing separate filers more likely does not qualify, but all the other filing status, usually you can claim the earned income credit. And you have to be a United citizen or resident alien all the year. The next slide. Common earned income tax credit errors: claiming a child who does not meet the residence or relationship requirements. Most of the time, your biological children would apply unless they do not live with you. A lot of times taxpayers call our line in our taxpayer advocate service, say, well, that is my biological child. But then we come to find out, based on some systems that we have availability to, that that child is living with someone else. So you have to be related, as well as the child has to live with you more than 6 months. Reporting income or expenses, particularly incorrectly on Schedule C. Make sure you have all your receipts and everything to validate or substantiate your income and expenses. Filing as single or head of household when you're married. If you're filing single or head of household at the same address, sometimes they're different addresses. The IRS will reject or hold up your return if we're showing that a married couple is claiming single or has a head of house when they should be filing married, filing joint. So that's very important. Make sure that your name and social security number is correct. And if you need any more information, you visit the IRS.gov. Other credits and deductions that are available to you. Okay, we won't go through all the credits that are available, but we're going to go over a few more. Can you turn the slide, Jessica? Credit for other dependents. The tax credit is available to taxpayers for each qualifying dependent who can't be claimed for the child tax credit. And then there's the maximum credit amount is $500 for each dependent who meets certain conditions. And then the taxpayer can use the Form 8812, which is the child tax credit that we talked about previously, that can be claimed. Remember that your dependents have to be age 17 or older for the credit for other dependents. Dependents have to have their own ballot identification number. They cannot be claimed or supported by parents or other relatives, and they must live with the taxpayer that's claiming the dependent. And you must be a United States citizen. We can move on to the next slide, Jessica. Education expenses. This is a good one too. There's a lot of taxpayers that claim education credits, but you have to make sure that the institution gives you a Form 1098-T. There is a program in the IRS system. When you file your tax return, it looks for a Form 1098-T filed by that institution. If there's not one on record, the IRS will not allow your credit. So you need to make sure that that you have a 1098-T when you claim that credit on your tax return. Remember too that the schools should provide you the 1098-T or the institution by January 31st. They will either send it to you by mail or electronically. If you do not receive it by mid-February, I would advise you to contact the institution to get the form. The next slide. We're moving on to charitable contribution deductions. Non-itemizer that does not file a Schedule A for itemized deduction. In 2001, you could claim $300. This year, it's been increased for $600 for married filing joint returns. So if you're married and you're filing a joint return, it's increased to $600. Those that are itemizing on Schedule A, there is a limit range from 20 to 6% of your adjusted gross income, and it varies by the type of contribution and the type of charitable contributions in organizations. You have cash and non-cash types of contributions, so you need to check out your publication instructions so far as making sure that you're within the guidelines of reporting that or qualifying. Taxpayers can apply in 2021 whatever qualifier contributions up to 100% of their adjusted gross income. That is a good thing. Okay, the next slide, premium tax credit. If you received your health insurance through the marketplace, make sure you get a 1095-A. You have to make sure you do that. If you do not file that Form 8962, your tax return will be delayed. So the premium tax credit, which we call the PTC, make sure that you have your Form 8962 submitted and you will have your 1095-A to support it. If you do not have it, by January the 31st. You need to be contacting the marketplace to get your 1095A. So make sure you have all your records up front. If you receive a corrected or avoided 1095A after you filed your return, you may amend your tax return. Go to the next one, Jessica. Finding tax return preparation help. You can always go to www.irs.gov to find all information. Now, the IRS does not prepare tax returns, and they do not recommend tell you where to go file your tax return, but all the information is available online here. There is free help, which they call VITA, which is a voluntary income tax assistance, and then they have the Council for Elderly locator, and you can find out where those locations at, and you can find out credible tax professionals on there as well on the website, and you can get information about filing returns and choosing the right tax preparer on the www.irs.gov. You can go to the next slide. E-file. We recommend you to file your return e-file, especially since last year we're still kind of backlogged in getting those tax returns processed for the prior years because of the pandemic and a lot of other tax law changes that took place at the IRS employees that had to process. So to get your refund quicker and the knowledge that they received it, I would strongly advise you to e-file it. You can file it yourself, and you can find the software providers on the IRS website. You can also go to a tax preparer to e-file it for you, but they may charge you a preparation or a service fee. But if your 2020 tax return has not been fully processed, in order for you to file your 2021, you still can file your 2021 if the IRS hasn't processed and you just put 0 as the adjusted gross income. Be aware that it imports the prior year data automatically for some programs, but if your 2020 tax return has not been processed, you can go ahead and do 2021 with an AGI of 0 when they ask for last year's adjusted gross income. Remember to direct deposit your return. That is the fastest way. If you choose that, you can split your refund into 1 or 2 or 3 financial institutions. You can even still, believe it or not, buy saving bonds. So I haven't heard that in a long time. I heard of any taxpayers that I've dealt with in taxpayer service lately, but you do have that option. You go to the irs.gov if you need any more information about direct deposit, and make sure again that you input the correct routing and bank account information or your refund will be delayed. And if it's delayed and you have to contact the IRS, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks to get that credit, and they're not going to issue any refund until it's found. Next slide. IRS notice and letters. They just began this year, offering alternate media preference. If you automatically filed a tax return stating that you're blind, they've already sent you this information to you, but that is available to you. So if you receive a notice or letter and you prefer it be in Braille or large print, you fill out that form 900, attach it to your tax return if you file it by paper, and mail it separately to the IRS. They will get that notices and letters for you in Braille. And you can also call the tax assistance number 1-800-TAX-1040. Next slide. Tax options for self-help. Our website at the Taxpayer Advocate has a lot of options for you as well. There's self-help information on tax-related topics that you want to hear about, step-by-step instructions on how to work through the IRS. There is also the website screenshot here that's showing you the Get Help page. As you can see, it has the what if, and it drills it down by category, by alphabet. However you want it, you have the option. Please note that every topic is not on here, but not shown here is your digital tools called the estimators. That is available to you, that can help you with determining eligibility for healthcare related credits and estimating any type of credit. And then also I want to bring to your attention, which is very, very important. Taxpayers do not know their rights. You need to review your rights as a taxpayer and that is the publication 1. You need to know your rights as a taxpayer. And that's what we push in the Taxpayer Advocate Service, and we advocate for taxpayers to make sure that their rights are not infringed. And on our page, we have as you can see, a contact us, and it has the options on there once you click on there of how to contact us. If you've been through the IRS and you've been working with them and they haven't resolved it, feel free to contact us and we'll try to navigate and help you out if we can. Our site also has information on free or low cost services for low income and elderly taxpayers. And also, if you have a federal tax related problem, you can start here, okay, at our page. You can go here even if you simply just want to know about a certain topic before filing a tax return. But we're available to you and our services are free. Help, go to the next line. Help with the federal tax issues. You may be eligible for help if like I said, if you can't resolve your problem through the normal channels through the IRS. We help taxpayers with IRS problems, whether it's financial difficulty or single cost. The good thing everybody needs to know, our services are free. We will not charge you. So if you have a scammer and anyone out there telling you that you have to pay for a service with the Taxpayer Advocate Service, that is incorrect. Our services are free. And not only do we help individuals, we help businesses, nonprofits, every form at the IRS, we're able to help you with, whether it's a collection issue, if you're having a hardship, anything that has to do with the federal taxes, we're here. Next slide. And the last page here, if you want to visit us, here's our website address, www.taxpayeradvocate.irs.gov. If you don't remember our address, just type in the search engine, Taxpayer Advocate, and it'll come up. I would recommend that you visit the NTA blog, where she talked a lot about a lot of different tax issues. We also have a news page, and believe it or not, we also have these various social medias. The Facebook, everybody loves Facebook and Twitter, so you can go there and YouTube, and then we're also on LinkedIn, so we're out there. Next page. And now I believe I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was so helpful and so thorough. I really appreciate your presentation. So next, I want to go over, some of the common questions that we've been getting from constituents this tax season. Some of them I think you went over in your presentation, but because we've been hearing them so much, I don't think it hurts to kind of make another point to talk about them. But my first one is about, extending the filing deadline. So last year, many people remember that the IRS gave people more time to file their taxes. So, we've been hearing, is the IRS planning to do that again this year? And what should someone do if they don't do that, but they need more time to file?
Okay, currently, as of today, the IRS commissioner has not decided or announced that they're going to be extending the filing due date this year. Okay. As you know, the due date is going to still remain April 15, 2022. If a taxpayer needs to file because they cannot meet the April 15, 2022, they can file a form 4868, and that's the automatic application. It gives the taxpayer 6 more months to file. Okay. Again, it gives you to October 18 of 2022 to file your return. Now, if you owe tax, it's not going to prevent a failure to pay penalty. So if you can pay a partial amount and you're going to owe tax, I would pay anytime before October the 15th.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Also, right. And also this form can be electronically accessed through e-file, and you will receive an acknowledgement once you file that form. So that's good to know. And it's faster, quicker.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. So, as you mentioned, there are people that have their 2020 tax returns that haven't been processed yet. So can you just go over again kind of how that will impact filing this year and, the processing of someone's return?
Yes. It won't have any impact on the 2021 tax return, even though if the IRS has not processed your 2020 tax return, you still can file your 2021. If you do not have your adjusted gross income, because a lot of the tax software providers will ask you, well, actually all of them, will ask you for your prior year adjusted gross income, you could put 0, just enter 0. But if you do not know your AGI and you filed your 2020, you will have to refer to your last year return or get a transcript of some sort so you can get that number. You have to be exact, even to the cents. So if you reported cents on last year, you're going to have cents on the new one when they actually input last year's AGI.
So you mentioned, people commonly use, different software programs to e-file. Is there one that the IRS recommends, or is there anywhere they can look on irs.gov to see, a list of software?
Well, the IRS doesn't recommend a particular provider, but if you go to www.irs.gov, the first front of the page, there is a link there that you can go to e-filer providers. There is an income limit. You have to make at least 73,000 or less to in order not to be charged a fee. But if you're over 73,000, you might be charged a fee. So they do have an income limit. And then they also have a list of tax professionals too that you can check on if you have to pay someone that's credible, and you want to go through someone credible when you file your tax return.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so say someone has filed their return. When can they start checking on the status of the refund, and how can they check the status? And is there a difference if someone e-files versus if they do a paper return?
Yes, there is a difference. If you e-file your tax return, you can check it within 24 hours of filing it. And when you file your tax return electronically, it sends you an acknowledgement that they received it. Now, if something's wrong with it, they will reject it. And when you file by paper in the mail or for prior years, you can't file electronically for prior year returns. So you can file 2021 up to October. And after the calendar year, you have to file it by paper. So if you end up filing a paper return or sending even your current one through the mail, anything by paper, you can't check it until 4 weeks later after you've mailed your return.
Okay, thank you. And so you've mentioned a few times that people need their adjusted gross income or AGI if they're e-filing to submit. So what can someone do if they're not sure what that is from last year? Like, where can they look?
Okay, well, you will go to your tax return. It's usually the first page. After your total income, the line is designated and it has verbatim the words adjusted gross income. So when you look through the line numbers, it says adjusted gross income.
Okay, great, thank you. So we've talked about like the third economic impact payment and recovery rebates. So when does someone need to claim the recovery rebate on a return, and how do they do that? I know you talked about this a little bit in your presentation, but we get this question a lot, so I think it's worth going over.
Okay, I got you. If you didn't receive your economic income payment, you can claim it as a recovery rebate credit. They changed the name when you file it on the return. It's the same thing. An economic credit is the same thing as a rebate. It's just when if you didn't receive it, you're not going to see the words economic income payment. You're going to see the words refund recovery credit, and that is where you will report your income, economic income payments that you did not receive. Now, if you received them, you do not put it on that line. But if you didn't receive one of the three, you do put it on that line. So you have a chance to get that credit or those credits again if you didn't receive it before. So like I said, economic income payments are the same thing as recovery rebate credits on the form.
Great. And a few I'm sure a lot of people had to do this last year with the first two economic impact payments. So is it any different than when they've done it in the past?
Yes and no. It depends on you received it or not, like I said.
Mhm.
So you just have to make sure that you look for recovery rebate credit. But if you're unsure if you received it, even if you hadn't received it, make sure you check the economic income payment credit tool on the IRS website to make sure a check has not been issued to you, because taxpayers are always moving around and things happen. And if you go to file your tax return for this year and you put an amount in there that's different than what the IRS has on their records, it could be rejected. So if you did not receive it, I will still check the portal for that to see if you received it. And if they're showing you received it, I will contact the IRS before I go filing that return, because you don't want to delay your refund, whatever other credits that you're claiming.
Sure. So I want to talk a little bit more about the child tax credit. So you mentioned during your presentation that, the IRS was issuing letters with the amount that they had received in the advanced child tax credit to sort of help people reconcile. What if someone gets a letter, but it's not correct, or they get a letter with one amount and their spouse gets a letter with a different amount? What should you do? What should they do if they're thinking that that letter has an incorrect amount?
If it has an incorrect amount, I will contact the IRS at the 1-800-829-1040. So you can discuss the issues. When you're dealing with married filing joint filers, it gets a little bit more complex. So I would advise them to contact the IRS if it's a different amount on that letter, or if they go check that tool I was talking to you on the website to see if they're showing any record they mailed it out or electronically sent it to you. So you want to have the right amount. So call the IRS so you can try to get that straightened out, and they will guide you through what you need to do.
Okay, great. And what if someone had a child, in the middle of the year, and they didn't receive the advanced child tax credit payments for a newborn?
Oh, okay, that's easy. We just talked about that. If you get a newborn, you still can claim the child tax credit, but in order to claim the child tax credit, you have to have the valid Social Security number. So if your child doesn't have a valid Social Security number yet, you will have to apply for the Social Security number first, or you can apply through the IRS. Sometimes taxpayers have other conditions where they can't get the Social Security number, but you can get a taxpayer identification number, my understanding, through the IRS if you qualify. But you will have to have a valid Social Security number, and you still can claim the child on your tax return.
Okay, great. What if a constituent shares custody of a child? How do they reconcile that, and are they able to claim the child tax credit?
If you have up to taxpayers that are married and they claim it individually, or they're not living together or divorced or whatever, and they're sharing custody, I would advise the spouses to get together to make sure that whoever qualified claims that child. If you're not you're not speaking to each other, then whoever believes that they qualify can claim the full amount still. It won't stop it. But later, what happens is the IRS might go in and they do some comparison checks. And if you have a taxpayer that got advanced child credit that shouldn't got it, you may have to repay it back. So you have to be very careful when you're claiming it, and you have to make sure that you qualify. But it doesn't stop you from claiming it. It's just later the IRS may contact you about a discrepancy about you and the other spouse claiming the credits. And then at that time, they will probably ask for verification, but it won't stop you from getting your credit. And if you qualify and you got the documentation, they won't charge you, but they probably would charge the other person that didn't qualify or the other spouse.
Okay. And, will claiming the child tax credit on someone's taxes impact their government benefits in any way?
No, it won't. Advanced child tax credit is not considered income.
Okay, so, good.
Yeah.
Simple.
So they can claim it on their return with no problems. If you're trying to get assistance, are you already on some type of government assistance or some kind of benefit, it does not affect it. So it's not considered income, like I said.
Okay, thank you. And then last question, for some people, they don't normally have to file a return, but they might need to claim, the recovery rebate or the child tax credit. So what do you recommend someone do in that situation?
If you have no wages or any other type of tax reporting or filing requirements, you can still file to get the child tax credit and the recovery rebate credit. All you have to do is file the Form SR. The IRS will give you the credit. So they developed that form too for elderly and for those that normally do not have other income they need to report. And they're just trying to get those economic credits, which now is called recovery credits and child tax credit on that return to get those credits. So it doesn't stop anything. They still can file.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. So is there anything else that would be important for people to know or remember for tax filing season? Any final thoughts?
Like I said, I want to go over, it's just so important that you double check your tax returns. Make sure the Social Security ends are correct. I will wait till all the W-2s come in because it affects the amount of credits and earned income credit and other deductions on there. You don't want to get an incorrect amount and then later owe the IRS. So be patient and wait till all your information come in. Most of the tax information has to be provided to the taxpayer by the 31st. So if you hadn't got your tax statements, contact your employers or your institutions. The second thing is make sure that you get a credible tax preparer. There's a lot of people like preparing returns in garages and dealerships and whatever, and they're not certified. You don't want anybody preparing your tax returns that are not certified. You also want to make sure that you get a copy of your tax return, whether you e-filed it or paper, and make sure that you have their preparer taxpayer identification number. Another problem we've run into is after the filing season over, they can't get a hold of tax preparers. So make sure that you get a phone number that you can call after the filing season is over if you run into a problem with your tax return and you need to contact that preparer that prepared it, or address, because sometimes after the filing season, they just disappear. And they'll say, I went back to that office, I got my tax return and no one's there, because you have preparers that rent just spaces just to do tax returns during the season and they're gone. So before the season ends too, I will verify that phone number they gave me and also the address. So, and if you find anything that's fraudulent has taken place, please report that into the Internal Revenue Service by filing Form 14578 of any fraud or misconduct that a preparer may have done to you or someone else, let them know that they can report that to the IRS. And then also you will file a Form 14039 if a preparer or anyone else has gotten your refund, so we can investigate it and get you your refund rightfully to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. That's wonderful advice. We really appreciate you being here today and all that you do at the Taxpayer Advocate Service. Thank you so much to everyone who's watching this presentation. Don't forget that you can reach out to Congresswoman Underwood's office by visiting underwood.house.gov or calling our office at 630-549-2190. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.